So Chris Chibnall gets a lot of flack for his time as showrunner on Doctor Who. But it could be argued that Countryside is his best Doctor Who related work. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Kevin, I am a geek and you are watching Kevin the Geek, and it is time for my review of Countryside from Torchwood Season 1. And this is a dark episode for many reasons. Now, before I begin, thank you to every single person who has been subscribing to the channel recently. I'm almost at 200 subscribers, which is bizarre because it took so long to get to 100 and then just things have been snowballing. So a lot of appreciation and much love to every single one of you, and thank you to all the comments. That being said, please do check out the community tab. I put little things on there, and at the moment there is a poll running for your choice in what video you would like to see me do for the start of May. Now, getting into Countryside, if you did not watch my stream of a video game called Until Dawn last year for Halloween, you won't really know my thoughts on horror movies and the general horror vibe. And I want to touch on that initially because, as a general rule of thumb, I hate horror movies. I think they're awful. I think it's all about blood and gore and making things as horrible as you can, particularly in more recent years, kind of starting with, I think, the Saw franchise. That's where it really started to gain traction rather than being more thriller and scary. And this episode, was it a thriller? Was it engaging? Was it keep you on the edge of your seat stuff? And it followed a number of horror movie tropes, I will say. If you've seen pretty much any horror movie, particularly ones from so like the 80s or the early 90s, that's where it's definitely got that feel to the episode. And I think because it is a TV episode and it's that shorter section, I didn't mind it quite so much. But what it did well can be summed up by that very final scene once everyone has been captured and Gwen demands the kind of head guy to be left behind so that she could question him because she needed to understand the reasons why things are happening. That summed up the episode when he just leaned in and whispered to her,
"'Cause it made me happy."
come on. Now, I think the reason that this thing works is kind of what I touched on last episode, where Torchwood is trying to lean into human evils with an alien twist. You know, kind of putting the alien mindset behind it as a crutch. They didn't do that here. There were no aliens. I mean, one could argue that these cannibals, let's be honest, that's what they are technically aliens because they're creatures that you can't understand, that it's difficult to understand what they want, why they want it, and why they do the things that they do. And for him to say at the end, the reason that they do this, reason that they kill people and beat them up to tenderize the flesh, is because it makes them happy. And the look on Gwen's face, to be honest, I still have that same look and feeling of kind of horror and disgust at the exact same time. And I've watched that episode many times over. I love this episode. It is so good. Yeah, there are some things that are less good. You know, I realise it probably wasn't Chris Chibnall's decision to do the whole Gwen and Owen thing. You know, he was probably told by Russell T Davies this is the kind of theme that were going on throughout the first season, and so this is kind of where we want to set something up. And he wrote it, and he wrote it in a believable way. Eve and Byrne, they both played the roles exactly as you would expect for, you know, the roles that they were being asked of, but I didn't like it. There's still that whole storyline. I get it, but I don't like it. You know, particularly with how you see Gwen react to Reese's death at the end of season 1. Well, I say death, because obviously it gets undone. Spoilers, apologies if you haven't yet seen it, but this is a review, and of course it's nearly 20 years later, so should have watched it by now. Jack, at the end, this is probably the darkest you've ever seen Jack at this point. Because in Doctor Who, obviously at this point, canonically, he was only ever in, 5 episodes in season 1. And then, 4 episodes of this. So, we've seen Jack 9 times at this point. This is the 10th time. And this is the darkest you have ever seen him. When you see him with the guy who obviously he shot down in the cellar, and he says to the guy,
"A long time ago, I was pretty good at torture. You see, I had quite a reputation as the go-to guy. My job demanded it at the time, you see? So I know where to apply the tiniest amount of pressure to a wound like yours."
You gotta stop! You're gonna kill me!
and then equally at the end, when he comes through with the truck and is, firing the shotgun to stop all the people and everything like that, that's Jack very angry and very determined. And I think that is a show of how between Jack and with Gwen, how disgusted they both are at this. Because to an extent, you could kind of say if it was an alien, he might be a little bit more forgiving. They're aliens, they have different mindsets and mentalities, and yet he is seeing the worst of humanity in this moment. And it's not good. And he, of course, has, what you don't quite know at this point, but he has literally been on Earth for the last 100-odd years, waiting to meet up with the Doctor again. So he's seen a lot in his time. And to say that this is probably the worst he's ever seen, I think that's a fair assessment there. I felt a bit bad for Tosh and Yanto in this, because they were basic kind of capture fodder for this, and this is one of those things I'm not so keen on with horror movies and things, because there will always be those people who get murdered for the sake of the plot, or they'll get captured for the sake of the plot, and here that was really the case. I like, though, that Yanto has got a little bit more to do in this episode, because up until this point, other than, of course, Cyberwoman, he's had barely nothing to do. And the tiniest little details I quite like is right around the time that I think Tosh gets captured. Obviously, this is the first time you see Yanto with a gun. And you can see, compared to everyone else who's fairly steady, with their hands with the gun, maybe Gwen a little bit less so, but of course she is fairly new to weapon gunfire wear. But Yanto, because he's basically a T-boy, he naturally, when he's got his gun, his hand is shaking. And I'd say partially that's to do with the fear of the scenario that he's in. And I think that would be quite genuine fear if you were in that situation. But then also the fact that either this is his first time in the field, or he's just not been in the field for a very long time. I think it makes sense that he would be like that. But what are your thoughts on Countryside? Please drop your comments down below. Remember, if you're new, please like the video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. If you missed it, on Saturday I did a reaction to the Doctor Who Weakest Link charity special episode, so make sure you go back and check that out. And coming up tomorrow, it's Doctor Who Season 3, Episode 3, Gridlock. But until then, my name's Kevin, I am a geek, and you have been watching Kevin the Geek. Goodbye.